Luz Raquel Padilla was 35 years old at the time of the events and lived together with her 11-year-old son Bruno Padilla in the city of Zapopan, in Mexico. Zapopan is a city with more than 1,100,000 inhabitants. It is considered one of the most populous cities in Mexico and is located in the state of Jalisco. Luz Raquel dedicated herself 100% to caring for her son, who is diagnosed with severe autism and refractory epilepsy that is difficult to control. Her husband, and also Bruno's father, abandoned them when the boy was a few months old, as soon as his conditions were diagnosed. The man claimed that he did not want to have a sick child and simply disappeared without saying where he was going, so that it was impossible to locate him, even to request financial help. Because of this, Luz Raquel had to dedicate herself to taking care of Bruno full-time. The boy's condition is very complicated. Bruno was a lot of work and couldn't go to a normal school or have a normal nanny so that Luz Raquel could work. There were specialized nurses who could take care of the boy while his mother went to work, but the cost of these professionals was high, and in the end, the salary that Luz Raquel would receive would not be enough to pay the nurse. Due to all this, Raquel's mother, who also lived with her and her grandson, was responsible for working and bringing home the living. His work did not pay him much, and the economic situation at home was often precarious, mainly due to the medical expenses required by Bruno's condition. Sometimes Luz Raquel suffered because she was unable to buy medicine and provide basic support for her son. The situation became even worse when Bruno was expelled from an autism treatment center they attended. Staff at the treatment center claimed that Bruno was very aggressive and they were unable to deal with him. After that, the family had to get money from where they didn't have it to pay for therapies and medicines in private clinics in order not to interrupt Bruno's treatment. In an attempt to earn extra income to help with expenses, Raquel asked Bruno to paint some piggy banks and some images, and then she tried to sell these items in city markets or over the internet. She even managed to sell some, and although the return wasn't much, it at least helped a little. In her little free time, when she was not with her son, Luz Raquel dedicated herself to collaborating with the organization Cuido Mexico and taking meditation classes on Saturdays, something that helped her to always remain centered and calm. If all the difficulties that Luz Raquel was facing in her daily life weren't enough, she also had to deal with prejudice and threats from her neighbors. Some time ago, she had reported it to the police and also made posts on her social networks about Sergio Ismael, one of her neighbors. According to Luz Raquel, the man kept swearing at her and sometimes even attacked her. She also reported that Sergio painted threatening graffiti where she lived. She even took photos of these graffiti and published them on her social networks on May 17, 2022. In addition to all this, Luz Raquel said that her neighbor played music at an extremely high volume, something that further affected her son Bruno's health. In a statement, the neighbor defended himself by saying that they only played loud music to drown out the sounds that Bruno made when he had his crises. Sometimes Bruno's crises were so strong and severe that he caused him to hurt himself, hit his hands against the wall, kick, make loud noises, scream a lot, and repeat things over and over again. Some neighbors said that this bothered them, and irritated, they played music at full volume. Neighbors also called the police to complain about Bruno's crises. At this point, this whole situation was already unsustainable. About this, Luz Raquel made a post on her social networks in which she wrote that she was disbelieved that her neighbors had called the police because of her autistic son. Things started to get even worse in May 2021. At the time, Luz Raquel reported that one of her neighbors threw chlorine on her body, causing burns in the chest area, which required a medical procedure to try to alleviate the injury. After this incident, she went to the police station to file a complaint. In addition to the complaint, Luz Raquel also asked the police to include her in the Pulse of Life program, to have a locator with a panic button to alert the police in cases of emergency. However, the authorities argued that his situation did not require this type of support and his request was rejected. Other protective measures were issued by the authorities. According to the Public Ministry of Jalisco, a 3-meter restriction order was issued for only 2 months, valid from May 9th to July 9th. On July 16, 2022, a Saturday, Raquel was going to an ongo where she was a volunteer. Leaving the house, She kissed her son goodbye and left him in the care of her mother. Shortly afterwards, Luz Raquel's mother received the news that something had happened to her daughter. She then took her grandson and walked along the same route that Luz Raquel had taken until halfway there, they saw her lying on the floor. Luz Raquel was all injured. She had been burned, and despite the severity of her injuries, she was still conscious when her mother and son arrived at the scene. She was rescued in serious condition and taken to the hospital, where they confirmed that 90% of her body had been burned. Luz Raquel fought for her life for 3 days, but unfortunately, on July 19, 2022, she died as a result of the burns. The incident caused great impact and outrage in Mexico, not only because of its brutality, but also because she had previously reported to the police and on her own social networks the numerous threats and attacks she had suffered over the last few years. The whole of society was outraged because what she feared most happened, even though she asked for help several times from the authorities who did not take her case seriously. An investigation was opened by the police to find out what had actually happened to Luz Raquel. In conversation with witnesses, the police obtained information that 4 men and 1 woman had thrown alcohol at Luz Raquel and then set her on fire. A week after the crime, the public ministry issued a preventive detention order for Sergio Ismael, the neighbor who was denounced by Luz Raquel and who even had a restriction order against him. This arrest order was not due to the fatality that had happened to Luz Raquel, but rather due to reports of threats and attacks that he had committed against her before the incident. Later during the investigations, Sergio voluntarily provided clarifications to the police. Some witnesses even stated that Sergio was very far from the crime scene at the time it all happened, and these statements ended up clearing him and he was released. In the days that followed, Mexican newspaper headlines stated that a group of people, 4 men and a woman, were responsible for the crime. The police did their best to find the key witnesses who said they saw this group committing the crime so that they could put together a sketch and locate the criminals. The case ended up going much further than anyone imagined, causing protests and demonstrations across the country. Some people stated that the police and the public prosecutor's office did not provide Luz Raquel with due support the several times she asked for help. Due to all this pressure from the population and the media, the police began to investigate the case more energetically. However, on July 25, 2022, investigators found evidence that completely changed the direction of the investigations. The prosecutor responsible for the case published a video where Luz Raquel appears buying 2 bottles of alcohol and a lighter minutes before the incident, the same items with which she was burned. This opened a new field of investigation, the central theory of which was that Raquel had set herself on fire, taking her own life. This new line of investigation gained even more strength after no evidence was found that other people were involved, and that even the main suspect at the beginning of the investigation, neighbor Sergio Ismael, was very far from the crime scene at the time of the incident. One of the paramedics who attended to Luz Raquel when she was rescued claimed that he had spoken to her and she had indicated that she had done that to herself and did not mention having suffered any aggression and no name of anyone allegedly involved. As a result, the police decided to investigate the victim further to find out if, in fact, she had really done that to herself. The police had access to a video dated June 28, which shows Luz Raquel outside her house setting fire to the front door. In another video that the police also had access to, it is possible to see Luz Raquel turning the security cameras from the front of the place where she lived to the other side, and minutes later photos were taken and posts on social media referring to the messages graffitied on the walls. At this point, the police began to suspect that she herself had made these graffiti and then accused her neighbors. In another video taken by the security camera of a neighboring house, it was possible to see Luz Raquel making some of these graffiti on other walls, and this confirmed the police's suspicions about her. These images began to circulate on social media and were also broadcast on television programs to show the progress of the investigations and calm the population who believed that the people responsible for what happened to Luz were still at large. But if on the one hand the population became calmer, on the other they were incredulous. No one would have ever imagined that Luz Raquel would have the courage to put together that whole story and then set herself on fire. Regarding the people who were seen by witnesses around Luz Raquel while she was on fire, who were 4 men and a woman, the police discovered that they were actually trying to help the woman. These people were even responsible for putting out the fire and calling help for the woman. If it weren't for them, Luz Raquel would probably have died before she was even helped. During the entire investigation process, the police interviewed 45 people, carried out 56 searches, obtained the opinion of 26 experts, and reviewed more than 120 videos to conclude that Luz Raquel caused her own death. Shortly after Luz Raquel was allegedly the victim of a crime, before the police discovered the whole truth, authorities in Zapopan offered a lifetime grant to Bruno and his grandmother. They also received the Pulse of Life emergency device, which had previously been denied when Luz Raquel asked for help. Furthermore, the city's mayor said that from now on, Bruno would receive all the necessary medical care and would also have psychological support, something that Luz Raquel always wanted for her son, but never got. Bruno doesn't understand what happened to his mother. He still thinks she's there, since his aunt, who physically resembles her a lot, is always close to him to calm him down during his crises. Currently, the boy's custody is with his maternal grandmother, who now counts on the help of members of the public and the government to meet her grandson's basic needs. Just like Luz Raquel, the boy's grandmother is also unable to work, as she needs to take care of him full-time. Well folks, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching till the end. Best wishes, and I see you next time.